Greetings to Dr. Gupta and anybody else that is watching this presentation. It is about chimpanzees, and their genus name is Pan, while their species name is Pan troglodytes. This presentation was created by Nathan, Alex, Brianna, and myself. Of all great apes, the area inhabited by wild chimpanzees is the largest. They are most commonly found in rainforest, spanning from western to central Africa. However, they can also be found in woodlands, as well as grasslands. A vital component found in chimpanzee habitats is normally the trees, as they are the safest when eating or sleeping. Chimpanzees consume a wide variety of foods. They eat many kinds of fruits and hunt small to medium-sized animals. However, chimpanzees only eat meat around 9 days per year. Unlike other species, chimpanzees do not need a specific mixture of foods. A recent study of wild chimpanzees concluded that they are expected to live 33 years. However, in captivity, this number changes to 31.7 years for males and 38.7 years for females. The oldest chimpanzee in record was Little Mama, who died in 2017 between the ages of 76 and 82 years old. The exact age is unknown. She lived at Lion Country Safari in Florida. Female chimpanzees can give birth to a single baby in one season. In fact, they usually only give birth once every 5 years.
So part 2 is variations between the entire species of chimpanzees. So I have 3 variations listed: shape, social interaction, and muscularity. So let's go to shape first. So the variation is that some chimpanzees have smaller limbs and heads, and the effect on survival is that this helps them with whatever diet they have. An example of this would be in the eastern chimpanzee. Since they live in the forest rather than the savanna, there's no need for them to be super big and to be super strong. So instead, they have smaller limbs that allows them to reach berries and fruits and plants that are in harder places to get. For social interactions, there's a difference on how chimps react with other species and within their own species. An example of this is the western chimpanzee, as they actively hunt other primates such as chimpanzees, mouses, frogs, and just other primates in general, which they hunt to eat. And this aggression that they hunt with sticks is what helps them to stay alive. For muscularity, some chimps tend to be more muscular than others, and the effect on survival, some chimps have to be more muscular than others for when they hunt or do daily tasks that just require more muscularity compared to other chimpanzees. And an example of this is the central chimpanzee, as they regularly smash tortoise shells in order to share food with each other, compared to something like the eastern chimpanzee, where they don't need too much muscularity, where instead they can move around and try to find the plants instead of hunting for them themselves.
The two homologous structures chosen here between the chimpanzee and the human are the hands and pelvis shown by the diagrams. There is text on the images, but it can be disregarded and only used for the names of the structures. Going one by one, the hands are located at the end of the arms while the pelvis is located between the legs and torso, shown by the red circles. The location and visual of the hand is basically the same, as it has the structure of a palm plus 5 fingers. It's at the end of an arm also. The function varies slightly though. Humans use hands to hold and carry objects or to use certain things. We have opposable thumbs and can grab and hold steady. The chimpanzee's use of hands can be to hold things, but it has also longer fingers, ideal for climbing and hanging from branches. They also can walk on their knuckles, while humans walk upright solely on their feet. The second structure is the pelvis. Again, the same location, but this time, roughly the same function and different shapes. The pelvis is necessary to hold the body together, so it does that, but on chimpanzees, the pelvis is long and narrow due to how it doesn't need to hold the extra weight of the chimpanzee torso due to them walking on their knuckles. This differently shaped pelvis makes them have to walk with a side-to-side lurch as they walk, but in humans, the pelvis is a bit shorter, but way wider as they stand fully upright, and they need the pelvis to support the weight.
Part 4. Vestigial structure. The most prominent and easily found vestigial structure of a chimpanzee is the plica semilunaris. This is a tissue in the eye socket that looks and acts as a third eyelid. Humans have the same exact tissue, and it is vestigial in the human eye as well. The original use of the plica semilunaris was to protect the eye, more specifically to keep it clean, moist, and protect the iris. This structure is the same in humans due to the fact that it has not adapted or changed at all. It's unclear as to when the structure became vestigial. Its lack of ability to adapt to changes in habitat and eye physiology are likely the reason it became vestigial. Since it did not ever change, the rest of the eye learned to function without needing it.
So part 5 is evolutionary relationships, where we compare relatives of the chimpanzee to the chimpanzee. So first we start out with bonobos, which is a close relative to the chimpanzee. Both species are in the same genus, which is Pan, and they share physical features because they're in the same genus, which includes their hair, their overall shape, their body size, and their habitat and diet. Some major differences is that bonobos and chimpanzees have different social systems, and this is where females are in charge in the bonobo social system rather than in the chimpanzee social system where males are in charge. Bonobos do not attack other primates, unlike chimpanzees, and a way to differentiate the two is that bonobos tend to be slightly darker and have pink lips. Now for our distant relative, which is the flying lemur. As you can see on the picture, this does not look like a chimpanzee, but they are closely related. So some similarities that may show a connection is that the flying lemur has a rotating shoulder joint, a separated big toe / thumb for grasping, and has stereoscopic vision, which means that the flying lemur can see in 3D just like the chimpanzee and bonobo. And some differences is that the flying lemur is in a different class, which is Dermoptera. You can see that the flying lemur kind of has wings, which is just tissue that they use to glide, and flying lemurs are much smaller than chimpanzees and have a different shape.
Evolutionary relationships. Recent common ancestors of chimpanzees. First up, the Egyptian ape, also known as Egyptopithecus. Evidence that the Egyptopithecus was a common ancestor of chimpanzees include the following: molars that look like they belong to human/old monkeys, low crown teeth, which could indicate a diet of fruits and plants, the fact that canines were found in a fossil, and the fact that they were arboreal quadruped, meaning they used all 4 limbs to traverse the trees. Another common ancestor of chimpanzees were the CHLCA, also known as chimpanzee humans' last common ancestor. A very creative name, if I could say so myself. Humans and chimpanzees share 98.8% of all their DNA. This is evidence that a common ancestor is likely very recent, as their DNA has not been given enough time to significantly evolve. As recently explained, both humans and chimpanzees have similar pelvis and hand structures, along with a number of other shared skeletal features. An example of this being the shoulder joints, which are very similar. However, a slight difference that allows chimpanzees to grab onto tree branches is evidence of evolution, as humans no longer climb trees for survival, and therefore don't have it.
We actually have both a phylogenetic tree and a cladogram, but to start with the tree. The tree begins with primates and branches off to prosimy and Anthropoidea. The branch to chimpanzees follows the Anthropoidea way. This splits off, but the chimpanzee branch follows the Catarrhini, which is the Egyptian ape, the Hominidea, which is the chimpanzee last human common ancestor, the Pongidae, which are the great apes, and then Pan and Troglodytes, which are chimpanzees. The tree outlines where the divide between the chimpanzee and other primates begin. So, for example, the orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees were all only split at being Pongidae. The branch off between humans and chimpanzees begin at the chimpanzee last human common ancestor, hence the name. Chimpanzees come out of the Pongidae side of that branch, while humans come out of the Hominidae. Some evidence of the similarities between chimpanzees and their ancestors heavily rely on skeletal and facial structures. A lot of primates have the same idea of bodies made for climbing and such, and the skulls being shaped a certain way for some reason, such as eating or the way they behave. Looking at the cladogram, it is roughly the same thing, just shaped differently. It still outlines how chimpanzees are part of the timeline coming from primates. Using this diagram, it is shown how you can trace chimpanzees back from being related to gorillas, monkeys, and lemurs via their ancestors. The timeline from primates branches off and can be used to link all the shown mammals in the picture.
So now we will be looking at the taxonomy of the chimpanzee. This taxonomy is illustrated in a triangle shape, which is kind of like a pyramid. And this just helps to show what is the most specific to what is the most least specific. And we will start off on the domain of the chimpanzee, which is Eukarya, the kingdom, which is Animalia, which is a fancy way of saying the animal kingdom. The phylum is Chordata, and the class is Mammalia, which is another way of saying mammals. The order is Primates, and the subfamily is Hominidae, with the family being Hominidae. The genus of the chimpanzee is Pan, and the species specifically is Pan troglodytes, which is the scientific name for chimpanzee. On our next slide, we compare the taxonomy between humans and chimpanzees. And if you take a close look, the taxonomies are identical until it reaches the genus. And this is where humans' genus is Homo and chimpanzees' genus is Pan. And this might be a reason why the humans and chimpanzees are so closely related, since they are in the same family of Hominidae. Now onto our citations. We have our image citations on the left and our research citations on the right. And that's the end of our presentation on chimpanzee evolution. Whoever's watching this, I hope you have a great day and a great summer vacation.